Today's lesson is Venice, Italy, the floating city. Hi, everybody. My name is Roger.
And I'm Mike.
And today we're going to continue talking about Venice, Italy. It's a famous tourist destination. It's got arches, it's got domes, it's got canals, it's got gondolas. And last time we mentioned some of these things you can check out in Venice. Of course, they're trying to limit the number of tourists there. They're trying to charge day trippers an entry fee of 3 to 10 euros. But like I said last time, I don't think that's going to stop them. But some places have too many tourists, right?
Yes, they absolutely do. I've heard about them charging tourists here. There's been talk of charging tourists in Amsterdam. I believe they have a bunch of new rules in Rome as well. You can't sit on the Spanish Steps anymore and things like that. I mean, these are wonderful places that everyone would love to see, but it's just a lot of people. I mean, a lot of these buildings were built 500 years ago. A lot of the streets in Rome are very narrow. We've seen some of the danger that happens with overcrowding in that terrible event in South Korea. But even with people behaving well and avoiding disasters, it's just the number of people, the sheer amount of traffic, which can really damage some of these wonderful old cultural treasures. So it's an unfortunate case of places just being loved a little too much.
And I think tourism is going to increase once these travel restrictions are lifted.
True.
After the pandemic. People have got cabin fever, and they've put off those trips for many years, and they're wanting to hit the road again. So Venice probably needs to prepare itself for the influx, the onslaught of tourists. So we're going to talk about some other places to check out in Venice in today's program. So without further delay, let's do that. Let's listen to the first part right now.
Overlooking Venice's Grand Canal is the Doge's Palace, which was once the residence of the Doge of Venice, the historic leader of the Republic of Venice. Take a tour to peek at the Doge's private apartments, then walk over the famous Bridge of Sighs to the prison across the canal. The bridge gets its name from the sighs convicts were said to let out as they took their last look at the outside world before entering the prison.
大家好。第一部分我们可以看到动词 overlook 指的是俯瞰、眺望或是忽略。例如 This wing of the hotel overlooks a 50-meter-long swimming pool. 旅馆的这个侧翼俯瞰一座50公尺长的泳池。或者 It was easy to overlook Claire as she was always quiet, but she was a very hard worker. Claire 总是很安静，因此很容易忽略她，不过她是很勤劳的员工。接着我们看到单字 residence， 这个字是名词，它的意思是住所、住宅或是居住地。举例来说 In the United States, the White House is the residence of the president and their family. 在美国，白宫是总统及其家人的住所。又或者说 The royal family has a summer residence located in a cooler region of the country. 那个王室的避暑别墅位于该国较凉爽的地区。再来，我们看到名词 convict， 意思是服刑中的囚犯或是已决犯。举例来说 The convict was sick, so he got the chance to leave jail for medical attention. 那位服刑中的囚犯生病了，所以他获得了一次离开监狱的机会去就医。又或者说 Several convicts escaped from Alcatraz in 1962. 有几位囚犯在1962年从恶魔岛中逃出。另外，这个字也可以当作动词，念作 convict， 意思是宣判有罪。例如 The court convicted the executive of embezzling company funds. 法院宣判那位主管盗用公款有罪。或是 The jury decided there was enough evidence to convict the killer. 陪审团决议证据足以宣判那位杀人凶手有罪。
Okay, so again, we're talking about tourist destinations within Venice itself, and we're talking about something called the Doge's Palace. Overlooking Venice's Grand Canal is the Doge's Palace, which was once the residence of the Doge of Venice, the historic leader of the Republic of Venice. As you know, back in medieval times, lots of different countries all over Europe, they weren't unified, and so Venice was its own republic at that time, or at least in the past. So the leader of this particular country or kingdom was called the Doge of Venice. And of course, the Doge needs some place to live. So he lived in the Doge's palace, which is the residence of the Doge of Venice. A residence, of course, is where someone lives.
Interesting. So not a prince, not a king. A Doge was kind of more like a premier or a prime minister or something like that. But yes, the leader, the executive head of the country, the Republic of Venice. And now, since they don't have a Doge now, so you can take a tour to peek at the Doge's private apartments, then walk over the famous Bridge of Sighs to the prison across the canal. Ooh, interesting. So yes, you're allowed inside the Doge's palace. As I said, there's no Doge anymore. And you can take a peek at the Doge's private apartments. He won't mind. A peek is a quick look. If you look at something not for too long, you just kind of want to, oh, there it is. Okay, yeah, I see it. You have a peek. So if it's kind of a surprise, you might take a peek at your sister's wedding dress before she gets married. Oh, you look so pretty. Okay, I'm going to go away. You know, you just take a quick look at something, just kind of see it briefly. In this case, you're getting a quick peek inside the home, this private old royal home, to see the private apartments. Here, when they talk about apartments in terms of a big house, you know, a manor house or some kind of palace or something, this is basically the living area for the prince or king or queen or princess or something. They would have the grand staterooms where they'd hold balls and dinners, but the private apartments would be their personal space where the prince or the king and their family would hang out. So that kind of thing. You can see the bedroom and that kind of thing. And then you can walk over the famous Bridge of Sighs. This is one of the many famous bridges that cross the canals there in Venice, the Bridge of Sighs to the prison across the canal. So I guess if you didn't impress the Doge at his home, he would send you very conveniently to a prison right across the canal. And I guess the sighs were the sighs of the condemned and the convicted and the prisoners as they were taken, you know, in to be locked up probably for the rest of their lives. Oh, why has my life come to this terrible end? That kind of thing. And we get the information in the next sentence. It says the bridge gets its name from the sighs convicts were said to let out as they took their last look at the outside world before entering the prison. I hope this scene was captured in a famous Italian opera because it's very dramatic. And of course, these people going to prison, we could call them prisoners, but a convict is another word. You're convicted of a crime, you're found guilty and punished and sent to jail in some kind of way. So if you're convicted of a crime, you are now a convict. We could also say you're a prisoner or you're in jail, basically.
And if later you get out of jail, legally, of course, you don't escape, then you are an ex-con or an ex-convict. You used to be a prisoner, but now you're free. And again, this is all related to the Doge's palace. It's a huge building, so it overlooks Venice's Grand Canal. And if something overlooks something, it's just really, really big compared to the smaller thing that's next to it. Like the university on Yangmingshan overlooks the city of Taipei. It's up there so high that it can see down into the city. Okay, that brings us to the end of the first part of our lesson for today. Let's move on now to the second part.
For a night to remember, see a show at the Teatro La Fenice, Venice's world-renowned opera house. Originally built in 1792 to replace a theater that had burned down, it was given the name La Fenice, meaning the phoenix, for its ability to rise from the ashes. The name would prove apt as it has been burned down and rebuilt 2 times since. The current theater opened in 2003 and was based on the original design. The main attraction is the auditorium, which features red velvet chairs, gold box seats, and an elegant painted ceiling.
第二部分我们看到形容词 renowned， 意思是著名的或是有声望的。举例来说， Late South African President Nelson Mandela has become an international figure renowned for peace. 已故的南非总统尼尔森·曼德拉已成为以支持和平闻名的国际人物。
Now, for a night to remember, see a show at the Teatro La Fenice, Venice's world-renowned opera house. I hope I said that right. Of course, I apologize for not being able to speak Italiano. But yes, you want to have a night to remember, which means you're going to go out on the town, you're going to go to a disco or a nightclub or something. But in this case, you're going to the opera. And, of course, you're going to this famous opera, the Teatro La Fenice. And it's a world-renowned opera house. If something's renowned, it's famous. So if it's world-renowned, of course, it's famous all over the world. Lots of people know about this place. If you like opera, and maybe you want to go there to check out a Verdi opera or something like that, maybe see Aida or something like that, or Carmen or whatever, maybe they'll put on performances while you're there.
Very, very interesting. Yeah, famous around the world, world-renowned. We could also have locally renowned, only kind of well-known by the people in the city. So that might be a real treasure if you're a tourist. You find the place the locals know about, not just the place that's famous to every tourist in the world. So, world-renowned opera house. Now, let's learn about it. It says originally built in 1792 to replace a theater that had burned down, it was given the name La Fenice, meaning the Phoenix, for its ability to rise from the ashes. Oh, of course, that all seems very logical. So they built this theater way back in 1792 in the same location of a theater that had burned down. If something catches on fire, especially a building, and it burns so much that it basically is useless, there's just a few pieces of burned wood left, then that building has burned down. There's nothing to save there, nothing to try to repair. You just got to start all over again and build a new building because the old one was destroyed by fire. In other words, it burned down. And this name La Fenice, which means the phoenix, and of course for all of those who know about Greek myth, they know that the phoenix is a bird that is consumed by fire. It burns to death, but then it comes alive again. It rises from the ashes and it has this new life. So often in European myth and other things in culture, phoenixes are symbols of rebirth and renewal or something like that.
Well, it says here in the next sentence, the name would prove apt as it has been burned down and rebuilt 2 times since.
Oh, my goodness.
So that's the essence of the phoenix. It burns down and then it rises from the ashes again and renews itself. And that's what happened here. A building in this location burned down once. It was rebuilt. It burned down again and was rebuilt again. So that's why we're saying the name would prove apt. Apt here means applicable, is suitable. It's a good name for it because indeed this is what happened there. The building burned down and was rebuilt just like the phoenix, so it is an appropriate name for this place.
Yes, indeed. It seems to burn down with an alarming frequency. They should be more careful with their matches and candles in there. Anyway, it says the current theater opened in 2003 and was based on the original design. So the current building, it looks old, but it was actually built not too long ago, and it's based on the original design. So they didn't want to do something really modern looking with modern architecture. They wanted something kind of old that looked old, even though it's not quite that old. The main attraction is the auditorium, which features red velvet chairs, gold box seats, and an elegant painted ceiling. In other words, your imagination will create a European opera house in your mind. Well, this kind of looks like what you would imagine. And this is in the main room. The auditorium is the main large hall inside a building like a theater or a concert hall. This is where the show happens, where the audience sits in the seats. There's a stage. The performers are on the stage. Of course, there will be many other rooms, backstage changing rooms and places for them to keep the sets and the entrance area where you get your tickets and stuff. But the auditorium is the largest main room where the show happens, where the audience sits. And inside the auditorium are red velvet chairs. So chairs in the color of red, covered in that nice luxurious fabric of luxury and high class and things like that. They'll also have gold box seats for the fancy people to sit in their private boxes and an elegant painted ceiling that probably reminds you of the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel, that kind of Renaissance style Italian painting. It must be spectacular. But remember, don't take pictures during the show.
Right, and of course it will be a night to remember if you get to see an opera, but of course there are all sorts of other things to check out in this auditorium as the performance is going on. Oh, those red velvet chairs are going to be so comfortable, and you're going to spend lots of time looking at those elegant paintings on the ceiling. Okay, that brings us to the end of the second part of our lesson for today. Let's wrap things up now. In our third part, we'll listen to it first.
All this and so much more await you in the floating city. From gondola rides through stunning canals to the view from its famous campanile, a trip to Venice is sure to impress.
最后第三部分我们看到单字 await， 这个字是动词，意思是等待或是等候。举例来说 Heath knew that his dog awaited him at home, so he didn't go out with friends after work.Heath 知道他的狗在家等他，所以他下班后没有跟朋友出去。或是 John knew that many beautiful sights awaited him in Paris. John 知道巴黎有很多美丽的景点等着他。
Okay, so we begin the third part by saying all this and so much more await you in the floating city. We do have that phrase in English, all this and more. That's when we tell something to somebody to describe a certain thing as having a lot of stuff. It has all this and much more, so please come and check this out. So yes, indeed, this is a great tourist destination, despite the fact that there are other tourists there in droves, I should say. But in any case here, to await means something is waiting for you. Somebody I met traveling once from Paris sent me a postcard and said, hey, when are you going to come visit us in Paris? Paris awaits you. Paris is waiting for you to come and visit. You'll have a great time when you come. Although I never went to Paris. I have never been to Paris. Maybe I'll get there someday. Who knows?
Definitely. Paris, Venice, there you go. Romantic trip to take your wife on someday. Yes, it awaits you in the floating city. From gondola rides through stunning canals to the view from its famous campanile, a trip to Venice is sure to impress. Absolutely. We kind of sum up some of the things we did there. The gondola rides, the view, the campanile. We can also throw in the Doge's Palace, the Teatro La Fenice. There is so much to do, and Venice is sure to impress. You will come away thinking, wow, I've seen so much stuff. What an amazing city. What a truly special cultural treasure is this city of Venice, because a lot of stunning things to see there, not just the canals, the art, the buildings, the architecture, all that stuff. It's something stunning. It's very impressive. It makes you go, wow. It makes you reach for your phone. It makes you take a picture. It makes you tap your friend on the arm and say, look at that, because it's really, really impressive. It will really be a memorable thing to see or witness or experience.
Right, and we should also mention that when we wrap things up, we often use this pattern from this to that, blah, blah, blah. So here we have the pattern from gondola rides through stunning canals to the view from its famous campanile, blah, 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 blah. A trip to Venice is sure to impress. This is a common pattern used in essays, and usually it's used at the end of an essay. You talk about a range of things that you can check out or a range of things that what we just mentioned has. So here we've got the range of gondola rides, and that continues on through stunning canals, which you can check out with your own two eyes. And of course, you can have some great views of the scenery there, including one of the campanile. And if you're lucky, you probably get to hear the bells ringing as well, or you get to go check out an opera performance in the auditorium there, which will be, of course, something that you'll never forget. Okay, that brings us to the end of our lesson for today. Here's Hanny.
Hello, 各位同学大家好，我是 Hanny。 我们来看今天的文法重点。课文第一部分有介绍 Bridge of Sighs 叹息桥，那课文就写到说 The bridge gets its name from the sighs convicts were said to let out as they took their last look at the outside world before entering the prison. 好 convict 在这边是当名词表示囚犯， let out 表示发出，可能像是发出叫声之类的动作，那也可以表达释放啊，或者是呼气的呼。好，那当我们说 let out a deep sigh 就可以表达深深叹了一口气。好，那我们看到课文的句子比较长，我们先分段来理解一下。他说 The bridge gets its name from the sighs 这座桥的名字来自于叹息声。那是什么叹息声呢？接着我们就看到 the sighs 后面紧接着修饰语 Convicts were set to let out as they took their last look at the outside world before entering the prison. 据说囚犯在进入监狱前最后一次看着外面世界时发出的叹息声。好，那这边我们就补充2个重点。第一个是 get one's name from 加名词，或者是也可以用 take one's name from 名词，这是指说由什么而得名，取名字点点点，以什么来命名。From 的后面可以接人或是事物，意思就跟 be named after somebody or something 差不多。举例来说 The town got its name from a nearby river. 那座城镇是取名自附近的一条河流。好，那第2个补充的重点是主词 be set to 加原形动词，是表达据说怎么样怎么样，用被动语态去表达公认或普遍的说法。例如 The castle is said to be haunted. 据说那座城堡有闹鬼。好，那其实我们也可以用 it is said 加上 that 子句来表达，像刚刚的例句就可以把它改成 It is said that the castle is haunted. 好，那我们读到课文最后一句，从乘坐贡多拉行经令人赞叹的运河，到从著名钟楼欣赏美景 A trip to Venice is sure to impress.意思就是说威尼斯之旅肯定会让人印象深刻。那这边要介绍的是 be sure to 加上原形动词的意思及用法。好，第一种呢，我们可以用人或是事物当主词，加上 be sure to 加上原形动词，就是表达某人一定会做某事，某事一定会发生。像 Frank is sure to win the competition. Frank 一定会赢得那场比赛的。The movie is sure to make you laugh.那部电影一定会让你笑出来的。好，那第2个用法呢，是我们用祈使句的方式表达 be sure to 加上原形动词，就是说一定要做某事。这个句型常常用来提醒别人务必要做某件事，像 Please be sure to take your belongings with you when you leave. 离开时请务必将您的个人物品带走。好，那么以上今天重点整理，我们回顾今天的单字吧。
Overlook.
One stayed in a hotel on a mountain that overlooked a valley below.
Residence. The White House is both the residence and workplace of the President of the United States. Convict. After the trial ended, the convict escaped from the guards as he was being taken to prison. Renowned. The doctor was widely renowned for being an expert in the treatment of cancer. Apt. The children decided that Spot was an apt name for the dog, given the many black spots on his fur. Await. Several interview requests awaited the pop star when she arrived at the hotel.
Discussion starter starts now!
Okay, here is our discussion starter for today. And the question is, which activity mentioned in the article would you most like to do on a visit to Venice?
My first choice would be to take a gondola trip on the Grand Canal. That's the activity I'd most like to do, since I've seen so many people do it in movies and it just looks wonderfully romantic, and also a cool way to see the city from the water.
Well, I would most like to check out the Campanile because I just love the sound of bells. Even though I didn't go to church much when I was a kid, every Sunday in my hometown you could hear the church bells ringing across the town. I thought that was so cool. You could hear the sounds echoing between the houses and stuff. So I think it would be really cool to hear those bells in Venice.
Well, that brings us to the end of another edition of our program, and please make sure you join us again next time. From all of us here, I am Mike.
I am Roger. See you next time.